Good morning. So this is Mr. Bean Goes to the Beach, and all you have to do for this assignment, either on concept paper or on 80-pound paper, is once again fold your paper in half vertically and horizontally to section it off into 4 rectangular spaces. You only have to do 3 drawings of Mr. Bean, and you can see I've already accomplished 2 of mine. The real focus here is the shading in a 3-dimensional way of the bean itself. The rest of the details, the arms, the legs, in this case the ocean in the background, the rising or setting sun, the seashell, are very, very simple, cleanly drawn, not sloppy, but very, very simple. The focus again is on shading. Now your basic skill to practice shading is this right here. First basic skill, can you lay down a color evenly and lightly so the pressure is the same and the color is the same and the value is the same. See, the value is light from top to bottom. But if I go back and begin to adjust my pressure heavier and lighter, you begin to see what's happening here. I get what's called a range of values, dark to light. I'm going to change my grip just a little bit so I can press a little bit harder. This is a full range of value right here. The color, I'm not sure what to call it, kind of a reddish yellow or a reddish orange rather, and you can see by pressing harder we get deeper and darker values. Now again, the deeper and darker your value, in combination with your light value here, gives you a bigger range of value, light to dark. And the bigger the range of value, the more 3-dimensional your objects can appear, okay? We can blend colors too, starting with very light pressure here. And we'll be combining those techniques here with Mr. Bean. So here you see I have Mr. Bean on a surfboard. One leg is shorter because it's farther away. One foot is smaller because it's farther away and higher up on the page. The leg that is closer is longer, and the foot lower on the page is bigger. The same thing is true of Mr. Bean's right arm. It's shorter, partly hidden by his body. The fingers as bare and basic as you can make them. Here is the near arm. This would be his left arm, longer, the hand bigger. Even this eyeball farther away is smaller and lower. This eyeball closer to me is higher on the page and bigger. The same is true with the eyebrows, smaller and lower on the page, higher on the page and bigger. So I'm using some very basic skills here to indicate depth of space. We have overlapping Mr. Bean in front of the wave, and we also have something special going on here in the surfboard if you wish to try it, and that would be the convergence of lines, lines that go from wide in the near section of the picture to narrow in the far. Again, starting in the near section, which is normally understood to be lower on the page, going back, the lines narrow. Even the stripe down the middle, the decorative stripe down the middle of the board, goes wide to narrow. The same thing is true happening here on this picture, showing me the left and right sides of the beach towel angling back. And because I don't see the legs, their length, I only see them coming straight for me, I've shortened the legs. Yet another way to indicate a deeper space called foreshortening. We'll get into all that a little bit later on. What I'm going to do is take a base color, and it doesn't really matter what it is. Here, let me try blue since I haven't tried it yet. And I actually have beans here, and they are 3-dimensional forms, and I can see shadows that they cast on the table. I can also see highlights where there's a bit of shine on the surface, and middle values and low values just by looking at that very small, very simple form. Let's start with very light pressure. I'm going to add it across the whole surface evenly. And if I turn the paper so that I can cross that mark going in an opposite direction, I can smooth it out very readily. You see how smooth that surface is. But it's not 3D, it's very flat. It's all the same value. Now, you can imagine light coming from above, and there would be lightness up top and shadow near the bottom. So that's where I'm going to go around this bottom edge and add a deeper value. And that will be my shadowy space. Now, light and dark by themselves don't really shade. We need all these middle values right here. So let's go after those. There's lots of curves, this one and this one and this one and this one. Just like a basketball or a ball, you have multiple curves, and I'm going to try carefully to follow many of those curves. Here's one, here's another. They angle slightly differently, so each one is done separately. You see how I turn the paper so I can come in from different angles? Sometimes I push the pencil, but here I am pulling the pencil. It just makes a little more sense to me right now. So you have to be able to adapt your technique to the form, to the thing that you are trying to represent. Notice how lightly I press up here so that the values shift gradually from dark to middle to light, giving me more of a full range. If I feel like I can go back and add a few more dark middle values or middle values or lighter middle values, I will. Now, one nice thing about this stage right here, it's a good time to blend. Now, blue on the color wheel has a color opposite it called orange. And if I blend those two complementary colors together, I get a neutral shadow or shade. So I'm going to do that right now because I really value those beautiful complementary colors when they mix. In fact, orange is a mixture of red and yellow. Red and yellow combined with blue, a primary, gives you the shadow that you need. It's a beautiful dark gray right here. Let me throw in another primary, yellow, and you'll see that yellow also kind of has an effect by warming the surface and shifting it more from a brown to a greenish cast. And there I have Mr. Bean on his surfboard on the wave, and we talked about how the other parts of this drawing really begin to represent something 3D. That's it. That's all you have to do. Now remember, I do give bonus points. So if instead of 3 drawings, you wish to do a 4th and do it well and attempt to get those bonus points, you can. Here I have a bean on the beach with some soft serve ice cream in its hands. It's sitting down. Its legs are short because they're kind of sticking out towards my eye, so I don't really see the whole length of the leg. And it could be a good thing for me to go ahead, if it's on the beach, and indicate on the beach. There's the distant horizon. There's maybe some water. Here can be a little bit of surf coming in. There can be the sun right there, you see, in the most basic way. And I used a sailboat over on this one. I think it works well, except it's kind of small. So this sailboat out on the water, I'm going to make bigger and simpler so it's a little easier to spot, okay? So that one being bigger is easier. But all of this is very basic line work. Again, the most important thing is the bean itself. Let's try yellow by itself and see what happens. Yellow is a tricky color simply because yellow, no matter how hard you press, stays a pretty light value. So you're never going to get much of a range of values, dark to light, out of yellow by itself, no matter how hard I press. So I don't think I'm going to bother pressing hard, but I think what I will do is bring in a purple. Now yellow on the color wheel is at the very top, and purple, violet, is at the very bottom. And those two colors are complementary, and they tend to cancel. Now here, the yellow and the purple give me a darker value that's almost shifting towards a very unusual orange color. Who knew that purple and yellow could give you an orange? And yet I think I see orange there. It kind of makes sense because purple is made with red and yellow do combine to make orange. Now I'm going to shift it around this way, catch those areas at the very bottom which are darker. Very deep purple there. It's really kind of a cool shadow. I don't know what to call that shadow, being so warm and orange like it is. Who knew that orange could be used to shade things? But here it comes up along the side. I'm following multiple curves. I might go ahead and add one more color to this, and I think since it's so orange, you know, I'm going to go ahead and add blue, and that's going to neutralize that orange a little bit more. There we go. Now it's more of a gray when the orange and the blue mix. And that's more of a suitable shadow, but boy, I sure like that orange shadow there for a while. So have some fun with your blends. Have some fun with your very basic here. This does not look good. Let's see if I can finish that up. That's a little rough right there. Here the blue and the yellow combine to give me a green. Okay, not bad. There we go. I've got 4 beans, Mr. Beans at the beach doing their beach activities. And I would probably be very happy with these 3. The shading on this one, not as good, and I have the soft serve in the way here, so that kind of gets in the way of my shading. Nonetheless, you notice the beans are not small the way I drew them. For the area that they fill, they're actually pretty big. They're pretty big beans. And so I want you to try to draw pretty big beans too. Mr. Bean at the beach, 3 drawings, 30 points. The bean portion itself fully shaded. Now, you try.